This is the True Voice Media Podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Gibbard. Back in 2011, I started a social business agency called True Voice Media. In 2013, I launched this podcast because my audience told me that they wanted to learn more about how social media could help them grow their business, but they wanted it to be interesting and without all the standard social media hype and BS. Just someone who will give it to them straight with honest, simple strategies that they can use today. If you're a new listener and that sounds like what you want too, listen to this episode. And if you love it, subscribe to our show. We'd love to have you on board. So without further ado, let's get started. Hey everyone, I just want to take a moment out to thank one of the partners that we have that makes this show possible, WP Engine. You know, back in the days of dial-up, people would wait for websites to load, but attention spans are shorter than ever. Did you know that the average attention span has dropped to a mere 8 seconds? And for reference, the average attention span of a goldfish is only 9 seconds. So you only have a short period of time to hook people on your website, and if half that time is spent waiting for the page to load, you are sure to lose customers. Beyond that, what do you do when your website goes down? Who do you call? Well, today's best businesses are running websites that load quickly and have virtually no downtime. In the event something does go wrong, the best businesses are back up and running in no time. That's why the best businesses trust WP Engine for hosting. If you're running a WordPress site like nearly 20% of the entire web, you owe it to yourself to upgrade your hosting to WP Engine. It's fast, it's secure, and their support is amazing. We use WP Engine at True Voice Media, and over the next 18 months, we're planning to move every single one of our sites to WP Engine. That's how good it is. Right now, WP Engine is offering 2 months free when you prepay for the entire year. And when you get to the site, look along the top of the page for additional discounts and offers. Go to truevoicmedia.com/hosting to learn more about the best damn WordPress hosting on the web. This is episode 44, and I'm here with a man by the name of Jon Nastor, but we call him Jonny. Jonny, welcome to the show.
Oh, thanks so much for having me, Jeff.
All right, so I'm gonna give my short intro of you. You're awesome, and you have a kick-ass podcast. Now you go and do a better job.
I think you summed it up pretty well. So yeah, I'm a podcaster. I'm, I guess, what you call a digital entrepreneur at this point. I work fully online, have for 6 years, and yeah, I create products that hopefully help people do good work in the world, and basically just kind of scratch my own itch. And when I'm not on the internet, then I'm either traveling or playing drums in a couple of different punk rock bands.
Ah, how about that? See, that is something new that I did not know about you. That is,
there we go.
Is brand new. Well, you had said you hope that what you do helps people to do good work in the world, but you know as well as I, somebody could be using the very interesting information that you put on there, including the entrepreneurial hacks that you've pulled from different entrepreneurs. They could use that for evil and nefarious purposes. How do you feel about that?
Well, evil is subjective, right? So who am I to say what is evil and what isn't?
You raise a good point, and now we go down the rabbit hole of moral ambiguity.
Exactly.
But instead of doing that, I'm going to take us in a different direction. We'll come back to moral ambiguity and what is the definition of evil, but you called yourself a digital entrepreneur, and your show, Hack the Entrepreneur, is obsessively digging into the life and minds of entrepreneurs, which it is just such a great show. I really want to, anybody that's listening, I really encourage you to go and check out Jonny's show. It's on rainmaker.fm, and we'll put everything in the show notes. But it's such a kick-ass show, and I don't know if in all of the places you are around the web and all of the conversations you've had, if anyone's ever delved down this path, but I would like to know about your entrepreneurial journey and how you got here. Because I think we all have these moments of kind of entrepreneurial seeing the light. I would love to know what yours was.
Ooh, that's a good question. I grew up in like a family that has small businesses and things, so it makes sense. My journey makes sense looking backwards. it didn't make sense for me going forward. Which, I mean, it's starting to now, but it didn't at the time. So I mentioned punk rock because when I was like in high school, I think I was 16 the first time I went on tour with the punk rock band. So literally the last exam I wrote for high school, like not for like that year, everybody was outside like smoking cigarettes and like figuring out what they were going to do for just what park they were going to hang out in all summer. There was a van waiting for me to take me, and we had booked our own tour. We'd made our own t-shirts, we'd made our own stickers, all these things of just like DIY, do it yourself. You want something done, just do it yourself, right? Don't wait for other people to do it. And it really instilled that in me. But then I did the whole, like through my 20s, sort of like working for different businesses and companies and doing different things and kind of not sure what to do. And then it came back to, I just want to do my own thing, and I don't need approval from somebody. I need to just do it myself. And so I've kind of brought that whole ethic back into my life. And now when I have something that really bothers me online and like I just don't know, like I wish there was a product that did this, I don't just wish anymore. I just kind of create it. It's better to me. Like, just why wait for somebody else to do it? Just do it. If you want to hear, if you wish there was just a certain podcast that existed or a certain piece of software or a certain book written, don't wait. Just do it. Just do it yourself. And trust me, you're not the only one. You're not this unique snowflake that probably is the only person exactly like you in the world. There are going to be at least, I'm sure, 500 or 1,000 people that are like you in that way. And they will be your audience, and they will pay you to create this stuff. So that's my journey. And like going through it, it seemed like a whole lot of just kind of traveling in a van and not doing a lot of stuff. But then looking back, it's like it's the foundation of what I do now, except now I have the scale of the internet.
Yeah, so it sounds like you were down in a van by the river. A couple things about that. One, I am a unique snowflake, so we're going to have to dig deeper on that. But we'll gloss over that for the moment. If you don't mind, without dating yourself here, what was the year that you were doing that whole getting out of high school and going to do the tour thing? Because I want to kind of contrast and compare kind of where you were then to here and what that looked like.
That was 1997 when I started.
Got it. So yeah, we're around the same age, probably similar sort of experiences in that sense. So back then you have these big ideas and you have to kind of, through elbow grease and grit and not much in the way of the internet, had to kind of pull all these things out. And you brought that spirit with you to today, where now you've got obviously the power of the internet behind you. Yeah,
exactly. And we actually, my family, my daughter and my wife and I spent 3 months last summer in Vancouver, rented a condo downtown, and we were like 3 blocks away from, in 2001, I moved with a band in a van, literally with our stuff, our gear, and like 3 other dudes to Vancouver, like across the country to Vancouver. And I ended up living there for like 6 years, but I literally for like 2 months lived in a van and we would move like around this block, like each night we'd have to move to a different spot so they didn't like tow us away. But it was so funny because I was like, that's 2001. And it's like, I didn't think about starting a business at the time or doing anything. And it's like now, like I remember just like getting out of the van and like walking around, there's like all these like nice condos around and people like doing stuff. And I'm like, wow, that's me now in one of these condos. And I wonder what van has just like some dude in a van that's just like it was cool. It was cool to come back to it and kind of see. That's what I mean. Like when I was going through it, it didn't make sense. And I think most people, when you go through stuff, it doesn't always make sense as you're going forward, right? Mm-hmm. But it's cool if you're doing at least the things that are pushing you in the right direction. When you look back, it does make sense. So
that's awesome, and it totally makes sense when I look back on my career, all the different things that contributed. I wanted to ask you about that because you said that you kind of went through different jobs working for other people, and and then eventually you decide, no, I got to go and do my own thing. I have to have my own thing. So when I look back on all the jobs that I had, I always felt like I went into them with a certain passion and reason for going into it, and then somewhere along the way I realized I was unemployable. But all of those skills came back to work for me, all the things that I chose to do because I was passionate, and even if the job didn't work out, I took those skills with me. So can you talk a little bit about the jobs that you had in between, the early days of you being the punk rocker and being entrepreneurial in your spirit, and then now where you work full time in online and making your own rules? What were some of those jobs that you went after? What was the thought behind going into them, and how has it helped you, if we look back in retrospect?
Yeah, the great question. So the first thing that I did, and I did it at three different places, was work for like a music store, like a CD store at the time, selling music, because I was into music. I was like, I can do this, right? So I did, and it was funny because the last one was like an independent music shop here selling used CDs, and I ended up in this deal where I almost bought the business from the owner because I work with them. And that again didn't make sense to me at the time. But then I went into, I ended up moving out to Vancouver then. And I just played in a band for a couple of years. But then I ended up getting like this job, like making like artificial rocks that they would like put onto houses. And I grew up in construction, right? So then I was like working for this company because it was something I could do literally without like it affecting like being in a band. Didn't matter how I looked, didn't matter how I acted. I could just literally show up. I could have been out all night. It didn't matter. And I did that, but I did that for like 2 months before I literally just like saw like where there was like this step above. Like if you actually went and did the work beyond this, you could do it for yourself and get paid a lot more money. So I stopped working like in the warehouse thing, and I just immediately like began doing something I'd never done in my life, for people building houses. And I actually got like 6 employees at one point doing this, and it worked really well and ended up selling that business, um, which is funny, right? So it was kind of this progression of I would like do things for somebody to the point where I would almost buy the company, and that happened twice. And then this other one where it was just I'm going to do this because it's easy and I can kind of do it and figure it out. But like within a couple of months, it's like I'm not fit to work in this like warehouse with these people who literally have been here for 20 years doing this. I have no idea how they do it because I'm already going insane. And all I'm looking for is like, what's the opportunities around this that I can just kind of throw something together that literally like threw into like a fairly good business that I got to sell and then move back across the country with my family from. And it was when I did that and sold that business that we came back to Ontario from British Columbia. And I had the time and the money to figure out this online thing that I'd kind of been introduced to, but I had no idea how to do it. And so I took that time and that money to focus on this and start online.
Hey everyone, my apologies for the interruption, but I need to pause real quick just to thank our sponsors and partners who make this show possible. Today I want to point out a partner of ours. It's a piece of software that we use called Contactually. Contactually is a CRM, and I know that when most people hear the word CRM, they let out a collective groan, because if they're a marketer or a salesperson, they probably have these painful memories of multiple months of setting up, reporting issues, unintuitive interfaces, just awful experiences. And realistically, most salespeople just want to be able to visualize their pipeline and keep in touch with the people who matter and who are important. How hard should that really be? But I'll tell you, when I think of CRM, I actually think of something different, because I'm staying top of mind with my network and I'm keeping in touch with my prospects. And when I meet someone at an event, I'm going to have a wealth of information about them and an email in their inbox by the next morning. How do I do it? Contactually. Contactually is a CRM that is designed to maintain relationships and close deals. I can personally tell you that it has been wonderful for our business. For small businesses and individual salespeople, Contactually is the CRM you've been waiting for. It took me about 3 to 5 hours to set it up initially, and after that I was keeping in touch with about 30 to 50 more people per week, and no, I am not exaggerating. So if you don't have a CRM or you're unhappy with your current CRM, try Contactually, totally risk-free for 30 days. If you hate it, you've lost nothing. But if you love it, trust me when I tell you that it pays for itself faster than you can believe. Learn more and try it for free by visiting truevoicemedia.com/CRM.
And I lost you.
Oh, sorry. I had my thing on mute accidentally. I was asking you a question and I realized you couldn't even hear me. So what I was saying for about 7 seconds before I came back was, so you work full-time now online. You have your own digital business, for lack of a better term, or digital businesses. And I want to know what your day-to-day looks like, because I have a service business and my day-to-day is crazy. I'm going to lunches, I'm going to coffees, I'm looking to close service contracts at the same time working on products, I'm working on my podcast. So I have all of these different things that I'm working on. And I just, in my head, I romanticize this idea of being a digital entrepreneur where rather than work with clients as much, I'm instead working on content that can really be of value to people and online courses and passive income and all that sort of good stuff. So I want to know what your day-to-day looks like. And if you could start it with like once upon a time or like some sort of an introduction sort of thing so it could be romanticized, that would be really great.
So, yeah, I mean, I don't get paid directly for any work that I do right now at all, which seems weird because I come from like your style of business where you kind of get paid for what it is you do, and it's service business. You got to deal with these customers and stuff. I have customers, I have advertisers, I have partners, and but I don't really get paid for anything directly. Yet every single month it seems like my business bank account keeps going up. So I continue to do what I'm doing. And it's a really strange sort of business. I create a lot of content. I'm on a lot of podcasts. I run 2 podcasts myself. And those kind of, and then I write for like Entrepreneur, I write for Copy Blogger, and I wrote a book, all those things. And so it's weird, right? So I create, like right now, I'm just finishing up creating a new product based around Hack the Entrepreneur to kind of to coincide with the book and the people that have kind of been introduced to me through the book, or I've deepened the relationship with the book. And so I'm finishing up that, but at the same time, I'm producing 4 episodes a week between my 2 shows. Just about 3 weeks ago, we wrapped up the launch of a course with Copy Blogger Media that I partnered with, a podcasting course based on the Showrunner podcast, of which I am a co-host over there with one of the people that works for Copy Blogger itself. And then plus I have a business called Velocity Page that is strictly software business, where we sell software, and I have that with 2 partners, and that's sort of on the side as well. So my week usually looks like an insane calendar of just multiple colors across my Google Calendar, and literally it's like every single minute of every day is scheduled. So I don't live on a beach anymore. I actually did for a couple of years, and it was really awesome, but then I got bored. But I wanted more. It's seriously, that's when I started Hack the Entrepreneur. When I started Hack the Entrepreneur, it came from, I ended up in the Philippines at a conference 2 years ago, like right now. And I met some brilliant people, and I had lots of free time. I had a business that was doing well, and I didn't have to really do much to it because it was fully digital. And I wanted to do something where I got into the public eye. I wanted to start speaking. I wanted to start writing. I wanted to start doing these things. And I had never interviewed anybody before, but I started a podcast anyways, and it's kind of led to some really amazing opportunities. But it's also led to me working a whole lot. So we're at home right now. As I said, we were gone for 3 months in the summer, and we have our next trip planned. We're going for a month to Spain and Portugal in June. And so those times I don't work as much. So the podcasting will stop. The writing will continue going on, and I'll keep doing things. But my schedule is really packed. But I don't do anything where I get paid from a person right now to be doing something. But everything I do seems to push all of my businesses to make more money, which it's a weird thing. And I don't actually fully have my head around it yet, Jeff, how it works.
Well,
can we dig on it here? Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, because I'm really fascinated by this, because you're saying like you don't directly get paid by somebody. So like you're not providing a service for someone and they're saying, okay, I've got your invoice, let me pay it in at 30. Yeah. So you're out of that space, obviously. But like the thing that keeps like rattling around in my head is like how, because I'm thinking about going to Spain and Portugal, and I'm like, that sounds awesome. I'm wondering, how does one survive? Not even thrive, but how do you survive just with podcasting? How do you get to a point where a digital property is able to afford you a lifestyle where you're able to support yourself and put food on the table and rent, let alone get to a point where you have freedom in your schedule and you can begin to, and I'm sure you said you had multiple lines of business that you're working on, but just, I'm encouraging a lot of people to consider podcasting. I'm looking at different opportunities for my clients to use podcasting as a way of showcasing their clients or putting a spotlight on their donors or whoever they work with. So I think podcasting is a great place. I'm wondering how you can actually build a business entirely around it. And it seems like you've been able to do that. Can you give some more detail on what the steps were you took to get there and how you're able to survive with it?
Yeah, so I mean, it's content, right? You have to be creating valuable content to somebody, and that can be YouTube, like in a video format, or that can be audio, or that can be just text. It doesn't matter to me. I can't choose for you which one of those works best for you. But audio was the one that I wanted to do because I never considered myself a writer, but I also really didn't consider myself a podcaster. But I've done it so much, and I just really wanted to have conversations with people. So I did it in the sense of creating content that's like entertaining, educational, and like hopefully inspirational to people. And it builds up an audience, right? It builds up an audience. And the only way I monetized Hack the Entrepreneur was like 2 months into launching. Then I started my first sponsor. FreshBooks signed on for a year. And then I moved to like midroll.com, and now they get my sponsorships for me. But the sponsorships don't really generate that much money. Like I just looked as you were asking the question, and I think I make $3,800 and some change this month from sponsorships. So it's not money that's going to allow me and my family.
Not small potato. I mean, if you have a family,
No,
that's tough.
of course.
But if you are, I'm thinking, if I'm someone in my mid 20s and I have either an expertise or an interest around something, if I can get to a point where I'm starting a podcast that can generate 3,800, I mean, obviously you can grow from there, but that's a decent apartment. It's food. It's, probably your healthcare costs. I mean, you're Canadian, so you don't have to deal with the healthcare thing, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, just 90% of it goes to taxes in Canada.
Yeah, but anyway, so
totally joking. But
how did that come about? How did those sponsorships happen? Did they reach out to you? Did you reach out to them? How does this sort of thing come to pass?
So, I mean, you have to create a show that is targeted to a specific audience. And this goes back to the whole unique snowflake thing and finding that. I knew enough about branding. I knew enough about hitting a target market that when I created this show, and I worked for almost 3 months on this show before I ever launched it. And I launched it on September 5th of 2014. But I had no audience, like nobody, like literally nobody had heard of me at that point. And I just started putting out good content in a way that I thought would hit with a market of a very, very specific person. And that's what I did. And it hit the market well. So therefore it grew fairly quickly. And then people started reaching out to me to be a sponsor. And I had 3 people right away offer me, and I took one of them, which was FreshBooks, because they would sign on for a year, because they're Canadian, I'm Canadian. I felt like it could align well with my audience. I kept my audience first and foremost all the time in mind. It was all about them, and it's always about them. It's not about me, the show. It's not about anything that I want to do. If it doesn't inspire them, entertain them, or educate them every single minute of every single episode, they will go to something else. They have too many options now. But when you do that, when you focus and you stay focused on that person that you know you are talking to, you have to trust that there are then 500 of those people in the world, or 1,000 of those people, or as the case may be, might be 15,000 of those people that literally download every single one of my episodes now. That's just how you have to do it. And you have to focus on those people and treat them like human beings. If you want to build a relationship with somebody, you can't expect them to do all the work. You have to do it too, meaning that I'm open. My inbox gets flooded with questions because I've asked for them since day one, and I respond to every single one of them. Unfortunately, sometimes now I respond a couple days later because it's just too much, but I love it, and I really do. And I want to build those relationships one-on-one with people, but one-on-one and one-on-one and one-on-one, it eventually comes to thousands and thousands of people. But it starts with the branding. It starts with hitting that one person exactly right and trusting that the internet allows everybody to find exactly what they want if you brand it right so that it hits that person.
So let's back up to the beginning of it. How did you pick that singular person? How did you go about deciding this is... So you obviously had an interest in entrepreneurialism. There's a fire inside of you that is the entrepreneur, and I'm sure there was something there where you really wanted to pick at that and try and figure out what makes us all tick. And you thought there's probably a market for that, probably in the form of entrepreneurs or entrepreneurs or any of those sort of things. So, but how did you come down to it? And if you were advising someone just starting out in podcasting, what would you tell them to do?
Only podcast in a market that you are truly passionate about. Because it's a crap ton of work. That's a Canadian metric ton, but it's a ton of work, and they're going to hit dips and things don't work. So hit something that you really, really, really are truly passionate about. So what I did and what I recommend people do is make yourself either now or yourself previously your target, because I mean, who do you know better than yourself, right? So my target, so it was something that I had realized over the past like 3 years of work, getting to talk to really cool people at conferences via email, via Skype, and just having like conversations with really, really smart people. And it's something that I will still like to any day, no matter what city I'm in. If somebody emails me and says, you want to go for a coffee or a beer and talk business, like, by all means, let's do it. I love it. So I had been having conversations with people, and I had noticed this weird thing that I didn't notice, say, 3 years earlier in myself, was that entrepreneurs aren't born. They're not, it's not just, it's kind of something we just step up and do. And we don't have all the answers. We don't ever pretend we have all the answers, but we're willing to sort of get in motion and bounce off things and let it just sort of happen and push it and push it and push it. And then from the outside, all of a sudden we start doing things, and you can look at someone like yourself, Jeff, and be like, well, yeah, well, look at Jeff. He's like an entrepreneur. He's probably a born entrepreneur, and he can just do it. And there was this connection, I thought, of the person who hadn't yet taken that leap, that they see us from the outside as people, well, that he probably like started his own business when he was 3 years old, and when he was 5 he was probably like mowing lawns, and then he was like all that traditional stuff that I never did. Yet when people look at me now, they think that, wow, you must have always been like this. It's like, no, I've had so many failures, I've had so many things gone wrong, and I've just stepped up and done it. And most people I've talked to in this realm are like that. So I thought, if I could talk to myself 3 years ago, which I'm going to trust that there are people in this world like me 3 years ago, then I can talk to them, and I can be sort of the middle point between these people who are really far ahead of all of us. I can be the transition and sort of the conduit to make it closer, and sort of so that it's not so out of reach. It's like, well, here I am sort of in the middle between us, and I can just kind of bring it to those people that I used to be. And now it doesn't even matter, because now that I'm even 2 years further ahead, I can still speak to myself 3 years ago now and bring my audience sort of with me. And that was my vision and how I thought I could do it. I honestly didn't think it would hit as well as it did, but that's how I did it. And I was speaking to myself 3 years prior, so I knew exactly what I had to say. I knew the language to speak in, and I knew what it was that would have pushed me and kicked me in the ass sort of to take the steps that I needed to take to get to where I wanted to be.
So how long have you been doing Hack the Entrepreneur now as a show?
September 5th, 2014. So episode 201 came out yesterday.
Okay, so it hasn't quite been 3 years yet, but if you could go back and talk...
It hasn't been 2 years yet.
So if you could, we'll call it 2 years.
A year and a half.
We'll call it 2 years, just for round numbers. That's an American thing. We just round. But if you could go back and talk to Jonny of the start of the show, what would be the one thing that you would impart to him about what this journey is going to be like, or mistakes to avoid, or steps to make things easier, or any advice that you would pass on to yourself having started the show?
Wow. I would have made sure that anything that had come up, the fears and the doubts sort of during that summer of creation and not putting it out yet, to make sure I obviously do it, because it's transformed my life. But beyond that, then 6 months after launching, so 6 months after September 5th, I would have been like, okay, Jonny, you need a product. You need something right now that's 100% Hack the Entrepreneur, because you're losing audience that kind of want to deepen their relationship. Because I then waited until December 14th of this past year, like a few months ago, where I finally launched the very first product under Hack the Entrepreneur, which was a book for $3. Luckily, I was blessed to sell like thousands of copies of it. I think 6,000 copies I've now sold, and it like went to number one like the second day it launched, because there was this pent up energy. But I've deepened my relationship with the people. Those 6,000 people that have bought my book now, we've deepened on a fundamental level, and now it's instantly been clear to me what to do next, which is why this next product came about, which I pilot launched to a bunch of people, and it's about to launch fully, because it just made sense. But I got so distracted sort of doing other things, sort of growing the audience, which you have to stay focused on them, but they want to buy stuff from you. They really, really do. Even if it's a $3 book, they want to deepen that. And that relationship really, really gets helped from that and benefited, like on your end, even on their end too, but on your end, it really, really forwards the business. So I would definitely be like, Jonny, create a freaking product, like ASAP. I mean, the book itself was told to me by audience members, were like, literally had created the book for me, like how it should be laid out, just from email after email. And it was finally to the point where I was like, I got to just make this book that these people have literally kind of told me what it needs to be. And so I did it. But that would be the thing, man. It's those products where you're almost scared to like start selling something to somebody because you're just giving them free content all the time, and you think it's going to change the relationship for the worse, but really it changes it absolutely for the better.
It's refreshing anytime I hear someone talking about like actually doing the work, and by that I mean what you're talking about here, and what's really taking you to the next level isn't that you ran some campaign where you're able to get some X number of impressions, and X number of those impressions became conversions. And it's not like that. I'm sure you had tactics that you used, but what you're talking about is actually listening to your audience, inviting them into the process. And when the term engagement gets thrown around so much, you're actually talking about engaging an audience for mutual benefit. And that it's always refreshing anytime I hear of a success story of somebody who has actually done that emotional work of reaching out, of listening, of engaging in a conversation to learn something. What are some of the ways that you're deepening those relationships, product aside, with your audience of your podcast and your different things that you're doing? Do you reach out to people that are on your email list sometimes and just ask a question? Is it that you invite them on your show to ask questions by emailing you? What are the ways that you're really making them more connected to what you're doing? What are your tactics?
So again, it's relationship, right? So it's literally, how would you want somebody to treat you in like an offline relationship? Don't disconnect the fact that you're behind a keyboard with the fact that it's a human being on the other side that you're trying to do. So every single episode of every single show I've done, I tell them to get on my email list, and they can hit reply to any email, and it will literally come to my phone or to my inbox, or I'll just give them Jon at Hack the Entrepreneur. I've even gone so far on about 10 episodes where I give out my cell phone number, and I tell them like straight up, I don't even answer my mom's phone calls. Sorry, Mom, but I don't phone me. But text me a picture of where you're listening right now. I get pictures from all around the world of crazy places where people are walking their dog listening to my show. It's amazing. And I truly want it. It's not a tactic where I'm trying to trick them into something and trying to create this false sense of relationship. It's like I started this show because I literally want to connect with people doing cool shit around the world. And I can't believe that from my small town, in my small country, in my basement, that I started this show, that I've been able to reach like more than 2 million people. It blows my mind. But I mean, I don't lie. And I honestly, like, I want you, I think that asking like and sending surveys and stuff, I think that's all crap. I don't think that works. I think people tell you what they think they want to say or what they think you want to hear. It's like kind of the idea of, talk to anybody about marketing, and everybody around you, probably myself included, will tell you that I don't listen to ads. I don't buy things from ads. Ads don't work on me. Everybody in the world says that. Yet it's $1 billion market, and we know for a fact, especially online through direct marketing, that ads absolutely work and get clicked on all the time, but nobody will admit to it. Because we want to believe something about ourselves, and we want to believe maybe we have certain problems or issues. Surveys, you'll tell people what you think they want you to say. And so it doesn't help you create a product. It doesn't help you help people. You need to just have a conversation. So every single one of my emails is somewhere in there is going to be like, just hit reply, man. Tell me what you're up to. Just say hi. Just send me a picture of where you're reading this. Send me, it doesn't matter. I'm not trying to get something from you, but when they hit reply, hey, how's it going, Jon? And then I hit reply back, and they're like, whoa, is that actually you? You just replied in like 20 minutes. I'm like, yeah, totally, it's me. And then all of a sudden, maybe like 3 or 4 days later, it happens like clockwork. 3 or 4 days later, they'll have this crazy long email about every single issue they have in their business, the main things that they need help with. And it's just like, wow, well, there it is. I could never have gotten that in a survey. I didn't ask for it, but that person now has a connection, and they see me as where they want to be, and they see that we have a relationship. So now they're going to share and see if I can help them, and I want to help them. But I also want to put that into a certain folder in my Gmail account and keep those. And when it comes time to, all right, it's product creation time, go through those, and it's like, wow, this is golden. I literally know what my people want from me, what they need, what they desire, and not by asking them for it, but by just having a conversation and opening up and making it two-way. It can't be one way. You get people who, just respond to me and stuff, and then you just ignore them. Like, come on, would you ever do that to a friend? Would you ever do that to somebody you really want a relationship with? No, but it takes work. And that's what actually stops most people from ever doing it. I'm not saying this is easy. I'm saying I work a ton right now, but I love doing it, and it's working really, really, really well. And anybody can do this. I'm not better than you. I'm not smarter than you. I'm not faster than you. It's just I'm willing to do the work because I enjoy it. I love my market. I love my people. And they're allowing me to live like a lifestyle that I never thought I would get to live.
That was an amazingly good answer. So at the end of this show, I'm definitely going to be asking. In fact, right now, all of you that are listening, feel free to send me an email and ask questions or just introduce yourself or whatever. Jonny, that's freaking awesome, man. All right, I'm gonna ask you one more question, then we'll wrap this up. I feel like that last answer, you just nailed it. So thank you. I guess my final question for you, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you about the impact of social media on your business. Now, podcasting, it's a form of social media to a certain extent. I'd say the entire internet is social to this, in this day and age. But how have networks like Twitter or Facebook or Pinterest, Instagram, Snapchat, any of those, how have they factored into the success of your business and the growth of it and the growth of your show? And then currently, how much of your engagement with your audience is coming by way of social or versus by way of email?
So I'm going to click my phone right now. Right as of right now, Facebook has 325 notices unread. I'm dreading Facebook these days, but Twitter is my game. I love it, and it has had the most impact on my business beyond, I think, anything. I mean, when you get into motion and you don't know where things are going, like how I had no idea where it was going to end up when I started, but I mean, the February, so about 5 or 6 months after I launched, I got a tweet from Mr. Brian Clark, the founder and CEO of Copyblogger Media. He had been watching what I'd been doing by myself, just with a show, and tweeted me and just like, man, I feel kind of terrible that you haven't asked me to be on your show. And it was like, bang, there it goes. And he booked a thing on my show from that tweet. Literally from that, he was like, new Rainmaker.fm is coming out in about a month and a half. You should be the show on it that's not an actual copy blogger show if you want to do it. Yes. So, and then 2 weeks later, phones start ringing. I don't answer phones ever, but it's like, what, Brian Clark? I should probably answer this. And then it was like, we have this idea for a new podcast and maybe a new product. Do you want to partner with us on it? Yes, let's do it. All of that from Twitter and being available and being willing to be there and reply. And so with social, because it's huge and it's massive, but I don't feel like I can spread myself everywhere because then I can't be responsive. And so Facebook's really bad for me. And I've always told people Facebook is not my place. If you want to get me right now, go to Twitter. If you want to get me, go to email. I will respond to you. Facebook, you're going to get lost because I don't go there all the time. And I don't feel like I can go everywhere and be with everyone. But if you want to find me on these places, we can have a conversation right now. And that to me is powerful. And finding guests, I mean, you talk to people on Twitter, it's amazing what can happen. But you need to just, I think, pick yours. Pick your outlet, pick the one that you're most comfortable with, and then find your people there and reach out to people there and be able to be there and respond to your people there. Don't tell them to go and find you there and then ignore them. It's just like email. It's just like any other relationship. Somebody who ignores us, what do? We end up ignoring them. It's just the way it's going to be. So if you say you're going to be there and just be a human. Just really follow through on this is a real human being on the other side with fears and doubts and everything around them. And they're reaching out to you to do something. And you can reach out to other people, but just be human. Like it's just don't try and just push about like, oh, here, follow me here, do this. It's like you have to kind of be responsive and I think, I don't know, just be human. It's the only thing I can say.
Yeah, it sounds so it sounds so obvious, right? But at the same time, if it were that obvious, why would it need saying? And it does need saying because so many that are in this space are trying to fit the old model into the new one, and they're doing it by pushing and pushing and pushing. And really, I think now and again, it does take a little bit of a wake up call to say, there's a better way to do this. And it may seem obvious, and it may seem, almost, because it's so obvious, it's like, oh, you just have to be human and connect with people. And actually it is that simple sometimes. And I'm appreciating this conversation and this part of it specifically, because for me, it's a little bit of a wake up call, because I've been so busy lately that I find a lot of my social isn't as engaged as it once was. And I think that's on me, of not actually reaching out enough and engaging with people on their terms, rather than just kind of pushing it out and waiting for people to reply. So definitely appreciate the wake up call.
Yeah, it needs to go on the calendar. Like anything else important, it needs to go on the calendar. And if you don't make time to go spend some time, it's not a waste of time for me to spend 15 minutes like 3 times a day on Twitter. It's so massively beneficial to my business. Just joking with other people in your market that like it's just literally just having fun and doing things. Like picture just walking into that whole, like just a party that you've never been to. You don't just go up and like, have you listened to my podcast? Have you listened to my podcast? It's like, you would just be a total jackass. They'd kick you out. You go in there and just talk to people. Hear a conversation. What do? You usually join up beside, and eventually you say something funny, say something witty, say something cool. It doesn't matter. Just be a human being. I don't know why when people get online, they think that it's like completely different than real life. And it's not. It's literally, it's getting more and more like just completely congruent between the two, where they're the same. And you have to treat them the same. Treat people like you want to be treated. Treat people like humans, and just be cool, be nice, be funny, be whatever it is that comes naturally to you. Just don't think that you're just hidden behind a screen, because you're not anymore.
Well, the YouTube comments have shown us that people obviously think otherwise, because they get behind the keyboard, they are just an avatar, and they feel that they're able to just say whatever they want, no matter how awful it might be.
Yeah, don't read the comments. It's better.
Stay out of the comments.
You got to keep creating stuff, and if you're going to read those comments, you're going to probably want to stop creating stuff, and don't let that happen. So just don't read that stuff. Know that if you are getting negative comments about things, it means that you're on the right path. And it's usually just people angry because they wish they were doing it too. Yeah,
no, that all makes sense. Well, Jonny, you're an amazingly good guest as you are a host of a podcast. So thank you so much for coming on. I think, I'd be glad to sit down and talk with you anytime you want to come back. You're a super interesting dude, and your story is super inspiring. For those that don't know you yet, they obviously should, but where can they go and find out more about you, connect with you, all that sort of good stuff? And I'll be sure to put everything in the show notes.
Cool. HackTheEntrepreneur.com. That's my home right now online. And then Twitter, if you're on there, I'm at Jon Nastor. So JonNastor is the best place. Literally, if you hit me right now on Twitter, we could be in a conversation in the next 10 minutes. That's just how it goes. So I'd love to talk to you there. But yeah, otherwise, hit me up at Hack the Entrepreneur. Cool. Or I've already said my email address, I think, of Jon at Hack the Entrepreneur.
Yeah.
It's pretty easy to find. So
we'll put it in there anyway. Awesome. Well, that'll all be in the show notes. Jonny, thank you for coming by the show. Thank you for being on the show. I had a really good time with you here. And for all of you out there listening, send me an email. Let me know what you think, what you thought about Jonny on the show, what you think about me as a host, whether I could improve or where I can improve, or just anything you want to say. Whatever. Tell me a joke. Jokes are fun. And tune in next time. And that's it.
Brilliant, Jeff. Thanks, man. You're an awesome host.
Thanks, man. It's been a little bit. And it's also, it's good. Thanks for tuning in, everyone, and take care. You've been listening to the True Voice Media Podcast, and you made it all the way to the end of the episode. I'm proud of you. But now that you're here, this is what we're going to need you to do. First of all, head on over to your favorite podcast platform and give us a rating. If you don't know where to start, go to truevoicemedia.com/feedback. Next, if you're not yet a subscriber, it's time you fix that. Head over to truevoicemedia.com/podcast to subscribe by iTunes, Stitcher, or email. If you really want to show us some love, visit our partners and sponsors who help make this show possible. I know the show feels free, but trust me, it's not. I sure ain't done publishing these episodes, so I sure hope you're not done listening. I'll see you on the next one. Take care.